Hello, everybody. There's Casey. Hi, Maddie. How are you? Glad you could be here. Melissa, and I know I see Matthew. Casey, did you know Matthew was going to be here? I almost called you, told you. And so it's almost like Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday. Maybe happy birthdays to Matthew, right? We're glad you're here, Matt. Yeah. So you know what?
Glad
We
to
have
be here.
just a handful of people here, but um, our members are on a time schedule. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And folks are probably going to trickle in. And so, Matt, since you're here, would you do the chat for me? Can I make you like the co-host? Okay. And what I'm looking for, Matt, is not a lot of unnecessary conversation, just related to the topic. So if you can keep your eye on that, I would really appreciate it. Didn't know you're going to have a job, did you? That's the way it works.
I should have known.
You should have known. Yeah. Okay, so here you go. Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. Oh, I made Madeline co-host. Sorry about that. Maddie, you can be co-host too.
All right, I'm down.
If you guys can kind of keep your eye on the chat, and then for questions, if you guys can maybe alternate between the questions that pop up in the chat while they're talking, that would be awesome. So I'm going to try to make you co-host now, Matt, if I can do this right. There you go. Oh no. Oh well, it'll work. And I'm recording all of this. Oh no, yes, it's gonna be great. So glad you guys are here. And most of you guys already know the rules. There are just a few guidelines. I really want to focus on the fact that one of our speakers today is also one of the organizers for this event. And you guys, if you've been here before, you already know that. And we'll talk about that later. But I also want to say that we have an event planning team now, and that's Angela, Casey, Maya, and Suzanne. And Casey's here, and the other we kind of trickle in. The other three are not here right now. And what I would like for you guys to do right now, if you don't mind, is please introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're dialing in from. And if you would please remain muted during the event. And we ask that you limit your comments to the focus of the event today. And that's going to be on Union Strong for the first half of this event. And this portion of our event is scheduled until 12 to end at 12:50 because our members have other obligations that they have to attend. So we will be very diligent to end on time. And our presenters will also entertain the questions after they share their stories about their experiences as far as the union dilemma. Okay, and part 2 of our event today will be on podcasting, and that will begin at 12:50, also 12:50ish around that time. So I just want to share a little bit with you before we start. The Union Strong movement is not just about better pay, even though it's about that. It's not just about improved working conditions, even though it's about that. It's about creative professionals like Ivy, Malone-Berigan, and Jack Berrigan, who stood up for the rights, not just for themselves, but for the rights of their colleagues. And I believe it was about recognizing the value of their work and their contributions to our culture. And in the case of the writers' strike of 2023, it's a story of victory, proving that when writers band together in solidarity, they can and did achieve remarkable things. So I am honored and proud and extremely happy to introduce to you my family, my granddaughter, Ivy Malone-Berigan, and this first time I've ever said this, Jack, my grandson-in-law, Jack Berrigan. Welcome, guys. The stage is yours. Take it away.
Hello, everybody.
Nice to see you guys. Thanks for having us today.
Yeah, this is great.
We wanted to start off with a little icebreaker that we thought could kind of be fun and on theme for our conversation. So we were thinking if you want to tell us one of your favorite films or television shows. We're both screenwriters, and maybe why, just to kind of get into the why our art is important and has value that should be compensated.
It doesn't have to be one we've worked on either.
So you guys, if you want to think about it, I can start. One movie that really inspires me in my writing is Almost Famous from, I think it was like 2001. It was one of the first films that I saw as like a young teen that really inspired me to kind of dive into storytelling, and it's from the perspective of a writer. So I have always really loved that movie and found inspiration from it. Jack?
I think I'll say, I'm so dumb. I didn't even think of my answer. I would think I'd say Mad Men. I like how they kind of subtly explain how the characters are feeling. They don't really, they kind of like respect the audience. They don't have to over explain. I feel like I learn a lot from that. And that John Hamm, I like looking at him.
Does anyone else have a movie or TV show that kind of comes to mind?
Or we can jump in.
Yeah, Matt, please.
So a few shows came to mind for me. Andor, one of the Star Wars shows, mostly because I feel like it's such an awesome example of writing and acting and why you guys should be valued for your work. But I also wanted to shout out Fleabag, which is a few years old now, because again, writing and acting, and Succession, which is a little bit more recent, because I don't care about billionaires, but I watched that show like it was my life.
Totally, same.
Yeah, it's weird to like empathize with those people.
Yeah, but you do.
It's good
It's
stuff.
good writing.
Yeah, great answer.
And I just talked about something that was kind of like imposed upon me because of you guys.
Please.
Yes, and it was Charmed. I never watched Charmed until I've learned, Ivy, that you were one of the writers for one of the episodes. And I'm thinking, I watched it over and over and over
Oh.
because your name was there. So yeah, we get pulled into situations, I think sometimes because of other people. And I'm just so proud of you. Just from a little girl grow up as a little girl and up to this stage now, you were never shy about too much of anything anyway. So to see you in this role is not surprising, but I'm so very proud of you, for both of you. But yeah, that one was like, okay, Charmed, I've heard of it. So do I watch it? Yeah, Ivy's one of the writers, so I've got to watch it. So thank you for that.
Mimi, thank you.
I think Melissa's hand is up.
Yes, Melissa.
Yeah, I think there's so many things. But I think one of the things that I have been appreciating most recently is anything funny. I mean, like comedy, because people think that is, just happens on its own. And it takes a real skill to write comedy and to truly make it funny. And especially those pieces that have multiple meanings that dig in deep, but along the lines of satire and things like that. So I think that's what I appreciate right now.
Well, that is perfect because this guy is a comedy writer.
It's really hard. It's really, really hard.
Yes. I need to talk to you. I've been, I'm a writer too, and not that I want to work in Hollywood, but just working on essays and things like that. So
that's awesome. We're probably much smarter than I.
Okay, Casey, I see you're watching The Bear. Do we like it?
Yeah, it's great. I don't know if it's one of my favorites of all time, but it takes place in Chicago where I grew up, and it's all revolves around food and chefs, and I have some of those in my life and love the whole food culture piece, and the acting's really, really good.
It's so good. I'm a huge fan of that show.
Do you like how they depicted Chicago, being from there?
Well, I don't know if I like it, but it feels authentic.
Oh, that's good. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, season 2, I don't know if you've watched that, but there's one episode in particular where she kind of bounces around restaurant to restaurant. You really see the city. It's very cool.
Yeah.
I just started the second season, so I'm a little behind.
Spoiler, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But
She goes to
I
restaurant.
just really love I love anything that's really character driven and the characters.
Yeah, they're great about that.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you guys for sharing. That was fun. I guess we can just kind of jump in and introduce ourselves. I'm Ivy, Evelyn's granddaughter. I I'm from Los Angeles originally, and then I went to school in New York, where I studied writing and acting. I actually was a child actor here in LA, so that's kind of how my introduction to the business. But then I switched careers and wanted to focus on writing. So my first writing job was on Charmed, the reboot of the witch show from the 90s. And I started as the showrunner's assistant, and then I kind of worked my way up to writing an episode in the last season. And then after that, I worked on another kind of teen-led drama and wrote an episode on that for Peacock. And then my last job was as an assistant on a pilot for ABC that was a little sadly not picked up because of the writer's strike, which we will get into. But I'm a drama writer, and I love writing, and I love watching shows and movies. So I feel really lucky to get to do that for a career.
G.
Mhm.
I'm Jack. I'm the grandson-in-law. I'm from Minnesota, and then I went to Marquette, which is in Milwaukee. It's the NYU of Wisconsin, everyone says. That's not true. But and then I moved to LA in 2015, and kind of a similar route. I was an assistant. It's called like a production assistant on the ranch, where you just kind of do very mundane tasks. I would drive. Sam Elliott was on the show and he didn't have email. So I would have to drive the script to him in a Ziploc and throw it over his gate to his driveway. So just weird tasks like that. And then I was on the Connors. I did a lot of sitcoms, the Connors, and then Call Me Kat during Zoom. And then I got a job for a show in the Seth Rogen world. And I've been there since. It was picked up for 2 seasons. So that's like very good job security in this business, which is nice. And they let me write some episodes on there. So that's where I'm currently at now. It'll be on Amazon. Okay, cool.
So that's a little bit about us. We're also recently got married a year ago. We just had our 1-year anniversary last week. But now we can talk a little bit about the strike. So I was just going to kind of jump in and talk about why we're striking, like why we were striking from like more of a macro perspective. The writer's strike was with the Writers Guild of America was striking against the AMPTP, which is the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. So it's kind of like our bosses, basically, like they run Hollywood. So it was a 148-day strike with the longest interruption to American film and television production since the pandemic, and the second largest labor stoppage that the writers have ever done since 1988, which that one lasted 153 days, but 148 felt very, very, very long. Our sticking points came down to fair residual payments and viewership transparency for the streaming services. Essentially, streaming was the major cause of the strike. Everything really shifted in our business because of streaming. It was essentially like a whole new system that was making these companies tons of money and producing some of your favorite content. But through that big boom, the creatives really started getting huge pay cuts. The structure of payment and compensation was really, really changed and kind of almost like overlooked. So sorry, we have 2 dogs, they're very loud ones. Sorry if you hear them barking in the background. But yeah, so streaming changed everything, and another big sticking point was AI, which I think is really, one of those issues that's affecting almost every field at the moment, because it's just like the unknown and something we all have to think about. But let me see. The corporations like Netflix, Disney, Apple, Amazon, Warner Brothers, Discovery, they basically found loopholes in the structure with the boom of streaming, where they were able to lose a lot of things like residual payments were really hugely cut from the broadcast system, which is like the old way, where it's like the ABCs, the NBCs. And, you know, those kinds of shows have like commercials and things where they're making this money. So it's the clear pay structure is really clear. And it was like the system of how you pay creatives for like replaying episodes and things like that was super clear. But with streaming, it was all much more secretive because it was new. And so we weren't given that kind of transparency, like this is how many people are watching this show and this is how much percentage you should get because of that. You know, they were getting the full percentage while we were getting very, very little. So that's why we went on strike. And kind of an overall thought that I had and talking to other writers is like, basically we were fighting to keep this career, screenwriting, a career, you know, and not like a job that you can do every once in a while while you have another full-time job. Like this is traditionally something that takes up all of your time. And so, you know, it's something that we want to do forever. And with the way things were going with streaming, it was not going to be that way. It was going to turn into more of like a gig economy. Yeah. So that's kind of the background. I hope that was clear enough to give you guys some context on why we did the strike. But
Good job.
well, thanks.
Yeah, and then so just looking at the notes here. Oh, right. The the strike was very long, and it was difficult to negotiate with them throughout this time. And it was kind of crazy how I think towards the end of the strike, you know, they used the media a lot and a lot of old school union busting tactics, and just the steps and the what they tried to do was very similar to like, you know, just what people have done throughout history. And they really tried to, you know, like pin us against each other and kind of like, you know, dash any hopes. And, you know, they'd always talk about how long the strike would be and whatnot. And it was great how we stood strong and, you know, we didn't listen to any of it. And it was good to communicate with each other. I think that was really helpful to hear from other people in the union and what their thoughts were, and just knowing that like everyone was in it together from the get-go, and it was worth it. We got pretty much everything we wanted. So
yeah, the deal that we got was super successful in terms of like those things I was talking about before with residuals, AI. You know, it felt great to know that the reason it lasted so long was because our union was not going to get less than we deserved. And so, yeah, the membership officially ratified the contract with 99% voting in favor, which was really amazing. I mean, it felt very obvious to us, like, of course.
I was the 1%. I marked the wrong box. It was a total accident. I think we're also fighting for quality too.
Yeah, that's
in
true.
the last strike, you know, there's so much good TV on, and I think there is still today, but I think, you know, we're fighting for bigger rooms, more writers, where you can get more diverse voices in, and just more voices in general, which is always helpful. More time is big.
Yeah.
To just, yeah, we're kind of fighting for the quality, and I think the studios and whatnot, it's just become the business model, I guess, has become they just need content as much as possible. And I think it's definitely quantity over quality. So
Yeah,
that was part of it too.
it's one of those things where it's like we would talk to our friends who were writers, and it was either you can't get a job because you're like a lower level, like Jack and I are lower level writers, or the upper level writers were so overworked because they're the ones being hired on everything and getting not enough time at all. Like it was like I talked to somebody who had to bust out 10 episodes in 10 weeks, which is like and just unbelievably unheard of. And you know, it was just, yeah, the experience of this career was like becoming unbearable. And we got really, really, really good protections on the writer's room minimum, like staffing people. So they can't do those tiny little rooms with three upper level writers having to bust out 10 episodes anymore. Like that invites, you know, new voices like us to come and be able to support those upper level writers, which is.
And the writer's room
important.
minimum was also a big sticking point with AI, because that with how AI is kind of just churning out, whether they're good or bad ideas, it's just a lot of ideas. And I think the studio and network's intention were, you get like a Ryan Murphy in a room by himself, and then like an AI or something, and can kind of just churn some TV season out. So the minimum was very helpful with AI as well, which is great. I think that was a huge part of the deal that we got.
And then I want to talk a little bit about the actor strike, which is still ongoing. They're really looking pretty close to a deal. Obviously, you never know with these guys, but I'm really hopeful that I'm also in the actors union just because of my child acting stuff. But it's really looking like it's going to end soon, and we hope they will not back down without a good deal too. So totally trust them. Oh. Yes, social media. Sorry, I'm just seeing it in the chat.
That's a great question. Yeah, it was interesting because sometimes Twitter would, I think people liked to,
writers like Twitter, so sometimes it was like a lot of opinions
and drama. It was sometimes it'd be a little dramatic, but yeah, overall it was definitely Twitter, and just seeing I guess like certain voices in the union you would go back to, and
some really good leaders in our union, like we're really clear about what was really going on, because the trades, like the media, was telling so many things that just were not true, and they were all backed by the producer, so that was a little stressful trying to figure out like what is actually the truth and what, like what's going on behind the scenes when so Twitter, and
it was weird that Twitter was actually helpful
in
this case.
I guess not Twitter anymore, X, but
and picketing you're there in person too, so that was, and it just you felt the solidarity being there in person, which was great.
Absolutely.
That was a good question.
So the actors we're fighting for some of the same things, but on different levels. Streaming also upset their structure too, so it's like now with actors there's more opportunities for roles, but the payment went down so low, residuals were so unregulated, or are, because they're still on strike, and AI is such a big sticking point for them, way more than the writers, because it's more immediate for the actors. I think with the AI, there was already some cases of an actor going to set, like Marvel was doing this, for instance, Marvel and Disney were having background actors be scanned for their likeness, and like in a contract line that you'd barely read said, and if we have your face, you can just be like generated on 1,000 other bodies. Like basically, Jack is an actor. He goes on set to work and has like a line in a TV show or something. They could scan him and then use him in every other show without payment. So it was like this crazy thing where actors are essentially being robbed of jobs because of AI. So that is like, they're really, really, really focused on that. And they will not step back until they get really, really good protections on that, because it's like almost scary. And then, like I said, hopefully the actor strike will be ending in the next few days, maybe a few weeks. But they've been on strike since July 14th, and their negotiations are still very much ongoing. And don't read the media doesn't tell the truth when it comes to these kinds of things, at least. So it's hard to know again what the actual updates are, but from what I'm hearing from the actual union is like they're just still negotiating. Even this weekend they're negotiating, and I think are they going back tomorrow? I think
today even.
Oh, today. Yeah.
I think it's obviously very helpful that we made a deal, so there's kind of a something in place that they can get to. So I hope it'll be this week or so. There's some good questions in the chat.
I think we just have like a few more things, and then we can take everyone's questions after that.
Oh yes. The solidarity, kind of like I said, with our unions has been great. I think morale has been high, and again, just like I said, seeing that if you just union strong, a deal will come. And I think SAG seem the same way. They seem together and excited about it, and there's just a lot of support from both of us, so it's been great.
Okay, now we can take questions. I think
Cool.
we kind of wrapped up our long speech about what's going on, but yeah, let's see what are people saying.
I think there is more.
Oh, there's okay.
Oh yeah, this is a good question. Do you know?
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm reading Melissa's
how our union
question.
changed?
Strong that I've seen. Oh,
Just if anyone didn't read it, but yeah, just wondering how our union has changed in the last 30 to 40 years. It's a good question.
It's interesting because our union is a newer union just because it's like a newer industry. But I know that the writers, I can speak to the writers union having been strong and still is strong. I don't SAG, which is the actors union, has had a little more of tumultuous history in this way that I think you're describing, because they recently joined together with there was like SAG, it used to be just SAG and now it's SAG Aftra, and they recently joined together, but they seem very strong. I think there was people were a little bit nervous about them at the beginning of the strike, but they have proved to like really stick together and be strong in that way.
I would say like maybe not our union has changed, but just our industry.
Yeah, the industry has changed so much.
It's very tech heavy. I think a good way to describe it is just like, when you're making a movie or a show, just business wise, you're in the red for a long time because you're throwing money in to make this thing, and then you go in the green one quarter, once the film or whatever premieres. And I think with the tech industry, you want to show growth every quarter, and it's just not a very realistic business model with how we do it. It's just how it's always been, and that kind of comes back to them wanting to just kind of churn out content like what we were saying.
Yeah.
So it's just been a big change in the like since streaming. So I guess that's how our union has changed.
I guess I hope it's okay if I chime in. I guess I'm curious because like I said in my question, I grew up in a community where people were either members of the IBEW, which is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, or UAW, the auto workers. There were Chrysler, GM, Ford plants in the community. And it was just like, we didn't go into restaurants if they had been constructed. My dad was like, I couldn't go into the first McDonald's into the community because it was, a scab got the, and it was like, and it was just like that. And, and I've watched the decline in like you mentioned the media has, and it's not just Fox, has taken over this corporate, since they're all owned by corporations.
Yep.
And I was just curious, like and maybe it would be the Actors Guild that would be more in line with this, since it's an older, that it's like if some of the seasoned, but it's not like that now in those communities. I mean, and now those communities, the entire community is struggling to get by. People grew up thinking they were going to be able to get this union job right out of high school, and make a good living, and all the things that those unions help protect. And I just wonder, if if the Actors Guild maybe has noticed that corporate shift, or obviously corporate greed. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we all have really. I will say that I have found that our unions are very strong, like and there's such specific rules in entertainment about joining the union. It's that any, like, for the instance, the writers, if anyone who has scabbed over this strike, they will not be able to work in television or film at all, because the union has such specific rules about strike breaking and like scabbing and things like that. So I found that it's very, very strong. Yeah, and we have really good benefits that have been worked for through other strikes and things like that. So it's definitely a very union heavy like town, but industry. So they're strong, very strong unions. Did you get any support? Okay, this is John's question. Did you get any support from the Federal Labor Relations Board?
I don't know.
I think we did not.
Really?
I don't know. I know that there was a lot of back and forth with like government assistance to people who were unable to work. Well, all of us were unable to work. And I know that like California did not pass any of that.
Oh,
So
right.
I'm not exactly sure if we did get assistance, but there was a really strong, because people at the top, obviously, in entertainment make a lot of money. And there was a lot of really good donations within the guild, like from members to other members, and still are, which is like funds that were created by the guild and also by just members like on their own. And there's still like grocery assistance for struggling writers, but that's all I think like independent.
Mhm.
I'm not exactly sure if that's
Costco pizza at the picket line.
Yeah, there was so many people like donating food at the pickup lines. I've seen like a lot of assistant groceries for people who are assistants, like, and unable to work, which is really cool. Do you want to read that?
Is there anything everyday consumers can do to support writers and actors? I think just, yeah, you wouldn't need to like stop watching TV or anything.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a rumor that was kind of going around. Like, if you stop watching this, then Netflix will know, like, in solidarity. But it's also kind of tough because there's never going to be really, or like cancel subscriptions and things like that. There's not, it's hard because it's not going to probably be enough people to like make a difference to them.
It's a good question.
But I think just vocally, talking about your like love for entertainment or shows, TV that's touched you, and like that if you find, I personally find storytelling so important, like couldn't live without it. And seeing characters on screens for me is like the most cathartic thing. And without that, there was a possibility that if there's no, right now even, I think we're feeling a little bit of like, what's there to watch? There's nothing on because of the strike, and like people weren't making things. So just having those conversations like amongst each other and local government, and I think
and just
that
unions in general.
Yeah, obviously just vocalizing union support, I think, is really good. I know here, I guess I could say like you can come and join picket lines, but that's hard if you're not like in Los Angeles or New York.
Good question.
Is there an obvious surge in not just unions as an idea or entity, but also in the success of their movements? There is. Yes. Can you talk about how those efforts? Yes. We actually went to an amazing rally. Was that in like June?
Oh yeah.
So with all the unions of Los Angeles, and they were all like represented by some people, and it was crazy to see all kinds of workers together, and so inspired by the things like you're just saying that have been going on in this year and this last few years, where it's like people are starting to realize again, which I think kind of ties into Melissa's question too, like when people are in a union, things will get done. I mean, we've seen with UPS got such an amazing, or is it UPS, right?
Yep.
Got such an amazing deal through their strike, and the publicity of it all has been great for every union. We in Los Angeles this summer, we had the hotel workers go on strike too. Yep. Earlier this year we had teachers, LA Union, or maybe that was this summer too, go on strike. Just seeing all the unions together and how passionate these people are has inspired so many things. Like I'm also in the assistant union in the entertainment. It's called IATSE, and people are talking about going on strike next year with IATSE because of how successful the writers were. And I think that has created such a big inspiration where we've been inspired by like Starbucks. Who else was before us? There's Chicago teachers. I mean, everybody. It seems like it's just kind of booming right now, and it's really, really great and really inspiring. I know I talked to Mimi with the Trader Joe's, people trying to unionize, and that was really inspiring. It seems like it's on people's mind in a really great way that is going to just make everyone's life better, especially with these big corporations have gotten so much bigger in the last 10-15 years, which I think is the reason now that we need to unionize, and the workers.
Very few people with a lot of.
Exactly.
It's gross.
It's bad. Will your work pick up when the actors get a deal? I think hopefully. It's been kind of crazy in the last few weeks because like the only shows that can go back into writers' rooms are the ones that were already going when the strike started. So like nothing new is really happening yet. And I think the studios are going to wait to see if the actors are getting a deal soon before they really let us really get back to work. So things are trickling in. Like I know a few writers who have recently gone back, but it's mostly like people are kind of just still waiting.
It's really hit a standstill specifically this week, just because they're negotiating with the actors, and so they haven't really I guess like bought any new shows or pitches for shows, because if they do that, then the actors have a big deal advantage of saying like, well, you want to make this show, so clearly we need to make a deal.
Yeah.
So if they don't make any moves like that, then they can kind of play like then say that it can drag out longer, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I'm seeing what a scab mean. Unions are having such a resurgence. Does Joe Biden being so pro-union have an effect? And do you think it'll have an effect on 2024? That's a really good question.
Very good question.
I mean, I hope so. I think, his support. Joe Biden was vocal more than our own governor or mayor in Los Angeles and California, which I think was crazy. We had some not great stances from our state government, but Joe Biden being openly pro-union and pro-strike was great for us.
He went to Michigan, which was really cool. I hope that helps him. I think it's a great stance. So, I hope so.
And also again, we were talking about so many people finding, I think, the importance of unions of late. Hopefully that does help him. And he continues to help us. Okay, I think that was our last question, unless anyone else has anything else to say. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, was there another one? Yeah, please.
I don't know how to type all this, but back to the question about the unions and politics and all of that. I don't know if it's true, but I've often heard that oftentimes the heads of the unions are, vote Democratic and encourage the union member. This probably isn't true in Hollywood, and then a lot of times the actual union members vote Republican. I just wonder how much you know about that, and if that's like changing now that Joe Biden's so pro-union and kind of that sort of thing. Maybe that's off topic, but I just think it's interesting and to hear from someone who's in a union.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I think our union is so liberal, and
it's probably different.
We're probably not the best people to ask about that, but
that makes sense though.
That does make sense. I wonder.
I think just showing his support is probably very helpful, and the fact that he not just says things but goes, he went to that strike, and I think is who knows, but that's that is a really good question.
Like, will your union get involved in that typically, like when an election's coming? Do the actors and the writers unions talk about it much, or
actually
vote and stuff like that?
I know my experience in SAG, the actors union has been, they definitely are very pro getting they have a lot of initiatives about getting people to vote, and I think our interests lie with the left generally, so it's
will you guys come back after the election and say if it was different this time? I'm curious.
Sure. Well, now I'm just remembering too. And very involved locally too. They show support for that.
Local elections.
Elections, They I'm just remembering that now. They discuss it a lot actually.
And could you also, maybe we're out of time, but if not, can you say more about how you said the state government was not very supportive? Can you say more about that?
In my opinion, I guess I'll say, I felt like our governor was not making any clear stances, and when he did, it felt very wishy-washy.
When he denied that bill.
He denied the bill for some members of the WGA came together and put some legislation that said can we give unemployment benefits to striking writers, and he was like straight up no. Our governor was like no, Gavin Newsom. I don't know, it just didn't seem like, I think his interests probably lie really closely with the producers because that they're the ones creating a lot of the income for the state, especially on the city level too. And it's crazy because our mayor didn't really say anything either. All the dialogue was really like, they have to find a deal. We hope both sides reach a deal. And it was like, okay, really? Like, it just felt very, I was very surprised by the mayor specifically because she's very liberal and progressive.
Kind of disappointing.
But
That
It's a
was short term, but like their long-term political careers could have been helped so much by taking the right.
right.
It was
Yeah.
like very
Exactly.
short term.
And it's a
Totally.
situation where you can be very clear on your stance.
And no, and they weren't. They
Yeah.
they really weren't. We had like some, city council people that were more vocal, but
Mayor Bass,
right. Gavin Newsom is definitely too big business.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So Mayor Bass did not say anything besides both sides should reach a deal. We're like, yeah.
It's a good idea. Good idea.
Yeah.
So I have a question, Ivy and Jack, on a kind of on a personal level. You guys were out on the picket line with people from all over the place. You did know a lot of people, but you shared stories. How did that impact you, and how were you able to impact other people I guess in maybe like an uplifting way, or how does that really impact your story moving forward?
I mean, I personally feel so supported by like upper level writers from the strike, just because they fought so hard for us lower levels to be able, because it's like these older people are fighting for the younger generation to be able to have this as a career. So that was really inspiring, just hearing like how concerned people at the top and of creatives were about us, and that was like, and also on a like more of a career level, that kind of opened doors to like meeting other people who are going to be staffing their projects, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it was I think we didn't realize like how, I don't know how to put this, like I guess it was just like good to all be together. It was nice to just like be there in person and seeing like literally seeing all the numbers and the energy and everything was great. It was awesome.
And the energy with the actors on strike is, I would say, even better than the writers, because actors just generally are more like outgoing people. And those picket lines are very fun and like such great energy, and it's just people talking to each other, all kinds of people meeting connections. I've seen on Twitter a lot of younger writers like saying, I met this amazing inspirational writer who sat and had a conversation with me picketing. Like, it was just, it just felt like we were all just in it together. It was cool.
It's like a really sad summer camp.
Yeah.
In a good way. Like, yeah.
Well, thank you guys for that, because I often wondered just how much of a follow-up do you guys have? Is that support team still there, or was it just left on the picket line?
Oh, I think, yeah, it's very much still there.
That's a good question. People have talked about, and not in a way where anyone has done anything, but I think it was a hard time before the strike, and people weren't working for a long time, and it was it was almost nice, the strike, in a way where you felt like you were contributing to this career that you want, and you're with all these people that are working, and it kind of felt like a team, and like you were doing something towards this, and doing something for this job. Maybe people, especially people that hadn't worked in a while. I think the strike was kind of like a good and bad, and I think the strike ending now, maybe people feel a little more isolated again, but overall, I mean, it's definitely, the support is definitely there still.
Yeah. And again, it's that isolation of like, when can we actually go back to work and be together? And, because it officially is over, but it's still like being figured out.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing from your hearts, your stories, your experiences. And this has been really enlightening for me, because I kind of kept up with it, but not to the point from you guys have done it personally for me, so I really appreciate that. And I'm certainly, I was always empathetic, of course, but I'm more empathetic now to what, after hearing your stories, just to be, I guess, reaching out and support. However, I need to be reaching out as family, whatever, but I just appreciate you guys even being there, and just thankful so much that you are in the career position that you're in, because you're touching lives all across the nation. All across the nation. Have you guys thought about that? All across the nation. Jack came on with his humor, and we need to laugh more. We're a culture that we just don't laugh enough, so I love you guys. I appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for what you're doing, and just for the tenacity to stick with it. I'm sure it was fun, but I would think it would be difficult getting up every day knowing you didn't have a job and getting on the picket line.
Yeah, there were some dark days.
Yeah, so just the fact, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's just such good questions too.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thank you all.
Oh, so thank you guys so much. Have a great afternoon, and really appreciate your time. I don't know if anybody else want to have a last word, because we can be finished now unless someone else wants to have a comment real fast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Get in
guys.
like a personal perspective.
Awesome. Thank you.
All righty. Well, you guys have a great afternoon, Ivy and Jack, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Okay.
Goodness.
Bye. Love you guys.
Love
Love
you.
you.